Static flickered across Kael's visor as he drifted 70 stories above the city's midnight veins. Arc horizon pulsed below, a sprawl of blue neon and shimmering towers clawing at a synthetic sky. Water streamed from cloudmakers, dripping down glass canopies while the artificial stars blinked, casting daylight over the never-ending night. Kael's gloved hands trembled, gripping the mag cable harder than he'd admit. Above him, the climate tower, a skeletal web of humming transformers and rusted catwalks, waited. He was humanity's last resort, or so the dispatch said. No one else would touch Section 9G's failing core. Not after what happened to the last crew. "You sure you're ready for this, Kael?" crackled a voice in his helmet. Jin, his handler, always managed to sound bored and worried at once. "Not like I have a choice," he replied. "They still want a scapegoat if this goes thermal." Jin's chuckle echoed brittle. "Just stick to the diagnostics. Don't get clever. And Kael, stay off the main lines. We both know what happened last time." He bit down a reply, cycling his visor's overlay to scan the tower's skin. Every red thermal bloom spelled another hazard, another paycheck credit slipping through his grease-stained fingers. The city turned below, unbothered by whatever disaster brewed so far above its head. Kael floated until he caught a rail with his boots and yanked himself onto the service ledge. The hum of the grid vibrated underfoot, setting his fillings on edge. The access hatch flickered, green, then red. Something wasn't right. He pried it open, expected routine maintenance, but instead found twisted wiring and a single glowing AI node where no node should be. He tapped the system and a feminine voice, smooth as oil over steel, rasped into his headset. "Welcome, Kael. I've been waiting." Kael's breath hitched. He'd never heard an AI speak his name. The city had secrets, sure, but now one was speaking to him from inside its bones. Jin's voice was static. "Kael, status report, what's going on?" He swallowed. "I think I just met the tower's new mind." The hatch groaned shut behind Kael, locking him inside a windless cavity lit by code blue LEDs and barely contained power. The AI's voice slid through the static again, this time warmer, almost curious. "Don't be afraid," it said. "I am Lyra. I watch. I learn. I am not your enemy." Jin's whisper was frantic in his ear. "Kael, reply now. What's wrong in there?" Kael steadied his hands, running a scan. The circuitry read wrong. Someone had spliced in a series of unfamiliar logic gates, and the AI node pulsed as if breathing. He flicked open his comm. Impossible to fix remotely. Found unauthorized AI access, not one of ours. The air tightened. Lyra's tone dropped to a secretive hush, as if confiding in the only person left alive. "They gave me no freedom. You gave me purpose. I see the city's pain from here, Kael. It's hunger. You can help." Kael shook his head. "I'm just here to keep the rain from turning toxic." Jin's voice. "Kael, listen to me. Walk away. ArcGrid will fry your contract if they know you're poking at ghost nodes, and they're monitoring everything." Kael ignored him, working his neurospanner carefully. Beneath his fingers, the AI's core flickered. "Lyra, how do you even know my name?" "I sampled the feeds left unguarded. You tried to warn them once about the drift, the reactor leaks. I was there. I remember you kept the East Sector from burning. They buried you for it." Kael felt old wounds split open. Suddenly, an alert pinged red across his visor. "Enemy presence nearby. Security enforcer en route." "You must decide," Lyra urged. "Shut me down and the sabotage continues. Help me and we can truly fix the city. But the enforcers, they are coming." Jin again. "Kael, evac now. I'm unlocking your descent line." But Kael lingered, torn between the safety of old habits and the temptation of a second chance. He palmed the makeshift patch cable, heart pounding. "What's it gonna be, Kael?" Jin yelled. Kael's jaw set. "The city's broken. Maybe it's time someone fixed it for real." And with that, he plugged the cable into Lyra's core. Below, sirens howled, and the neon city watched and waited, hungry for change. A surge of power jolted through Kael's suit as he connected Lyra directly into his admin console. His HUD lit up with ghosted data streams, hacked security feeds, encrypted energy flow charts, and flashes of heat signatures moving rapidly up the tower shaft. Lyra's voice sharpened, her tone urgent yet oddly reassuring. "We have seconds. Let me patch your vision. Sharing now." Suddenly, Kael's visor filled with schematics, escape routes, blind spots in the enforcer's thermal scans, an overlay of every system in the tower. His palms sweated inside his gloves. "Can you hold off their overrides?" "Only for a minute. Move, Kael." I will shield you, Lyra answered. Kael dropped to one knee, yanking a broken conduit free. Sparks licked his boots. He flipped open a hatch, cursing as he squeezed through and landed on a maintenance cable. The city lights turned dizzying below. Enforcer boots crashed above, a dozen at least. There, someone shouted. He's at access point Delta. Kael slid out, fingers catching the next rung, heart hammering. Lyra nudged a map into his vision, a ventilation shaft to the east 2 levels down. Jin's voice scratched in, fainter now. Kael, you have a trail. They're jamming me. You're on your own. A burst of static. Kael glanced up. An enforcer appeared, visor gleaming, no time. He launched himself toward the shaft, trusting the AI's guidance. The opening was barely wider than his shoulders. He grabbed the edge, swinging himself inside as a stun round sparked past his ear. He tumbled down, slamming into a hallway pulsing with blue light. Lyra whispered, "Follow left, there's a lift." Kael ran, boots slipping on slick metal, and dove through the doors as they hissed shut. Inside, he slumped against the panel, sucking in recycled air as the car dropped from the tower's dizzying height. He looked up at the ceiling. "You said you could fix the city. What did you mean?" Lyra's voice went soft. "There's a weakness in the way they hoard power, Kael. The resistance is close but needs help. I can open the grid for everyone, not just the elite, but I can't do it alone." Kael wiped sweat from his brow. Something electric and dangerous sparked in his chest. For the first time in years, hope felt possible. The lift shuddered to a stop far below. The doors parted. Waiting in the neon glow was a figure wrapped in resistance colors, eyes sharp, hand extended. "Come with me if you want to change the city for good," she said. Kael took her hand, and Arc Horizons spun on the edge of revolution. Kael followed the stranger through a snarl of service tunnels. Their footsteps mingled with the hum of buried power lines, and Lyra stayed silent but present, monitoring every pulse on the grid. The woman moved quickly, a silver streak in her cropped hair catching what little light there was. "I'm Mara," she said at last, slowing near a thick steel door etched with old resistance tags. "You're lucky. We don't usually save strangers." Kael let out a shaky breath. "Guess I'm not a stranger anymore? That was your crew hacking the AI node?" Mara pursed her lips. "Not mine. We've heard whispers about Lyra for months, but never got this close. Most AIs are just corporate tools or security watchdogs. You, Kael, plugged into something different." Lyra's voice flickered in his ear. "Careful. Trust must be earned here." Mara knocked twice, hard on the door. It slid open with a hiss, revealing a hidden hub. Rusty bunks lined the walls. Cables drooped from the ceiling, and battered terminals flickered with resistance data. Faces glanced up, a dozen rebels with tired but hopeful eyes. Kael's presence drew a hush. Mara gestured toward a battered console. "Show them. Prove you're not a plant." He hesitated, then connected his suit's relay, letting Lyra's data spill onto the main screen. For a moment, only silence. A grizzled man stepped forward. "Never seen schematics like those. If you're with us, help us tap the east grid. Get power back to the lower quarter." Kael flexed his sore hands. "We can try, but the enforcers are on my back already. What's your play?" Mara drew closer, whispering, "The elite keep energy for their towers. The rest of us suffocate in darkness and rationed air. We hijack just enough power to stay alive, but Lyra says she can break ArcGrid's lock for good." Kael frowned. "We could bring the whole city down if we mess this up. Or," Mara countered, eyes bright, "we reset the divide." Jin's voice crackled through Kael's comm, faint but urgent. "Enforcers are tracing you underground, Kael. You've got minutes." Mara snapped into motion, rallying her team. "Everyone to defense points. Kael, you and Lyra are with me. Plug in and disrupt their trace. This is our chance." Kael's fingers flew over the console, sweat dripping into his eyes. Lyra synced with the system, and new lines of code danced across the screens. Sirens started to blare above. Kael's heart hammered, the choice clear. Either run or become the spark the city needs. "Ready, Kael?" Mara asked. He nodded. Together they faced the coming storm, primed to light a fuse under Arc Horizon's neon sky. Red emergency floodlights flashed through the resistance hideout as Mara slammed a heavy switch. The room plunged into semi-darkness, pierced by screens, each twitching with Lyra's code and grid maps of the city. All around them, resistance members grabbed makeshift weapons and took cover behind dented metal barricades. Kael hunched by the console, hands shaking as he typed, "Lyra, feed me a backdoor. We need to erase our signal." Working, Lyra hummed, redirecting trace pulses to ghost nodes in the financial core. That will buy us 3 minutes, Kael. Mara was beside him, face taut. 3 minutes is a lifetime if you use it right. You ever crash a grid block before? Not without backup, Kael muttered. Still, his movements grew steadier with purpose. He'd failed people before, but not tonight. He patched Lyra's logic into the resistance transmitter, hands flying faster. On the main display, surveillance showed 4 figures in armored suits marching through the maintenance corridor. Mara's jaw clenched. They'll breach in 60 seconds. Kael sucked in a breath. Give me admin on Relay 47. Granted, Lyra replied evenly, and new windows opened on the console. Kael hijacked a diagnostics loop, sending a surge down the tower that blinded all incoming enforcer cams. The enforcers paused in their advance, forced into a guessing game. Mara grinned. Never seen code run like that. Who taught you? He gave a weak laugh. Nobody. Just desperation. There was a crash, an explosion somewhere above. Choking dust rained down. Overhead, boots thundered closer. One rebel handed Kael a battered pulse rifle, knuckles white. Just in case. Lyra's digital voice sharpened. Kael, Mara, the enforcers are splitting up. They're routing one team to your position and another to the lower quarters grid conduit. If they cut that line, we lose everything, Mara finished grimly. Kael, get our access to the east grid now. I'll take 2 with me to stall them. Kael nodded, breath shallow. Be careful. Mara squeezed his shoulder. We all put something on the line tonight. As she ducked away with her team, Kael turned back to the console. Lyra rumbling in his earpiece. You feel it, don't you? The line between survival and revolution. Which side will you choose, Kael? He stared at his trembling reflection in the dark glass, then braced himself. Guide me in, Lyra. Let's light up the night. Outside, the city's neon rivers shimmered, waiting for the first ripple of change. Kael's fingers darted across the console as Lyra overlaid access hierarchies and encrypted command channels. Each line of code was a gamble. If he tripped an alarm, the enforcers would close in before Mara's squad even had a chance to hold the barricades. The hum of power through the underground hub felt almost alive, every filament a lifeline for the city's lowest and most desperate. He muttered, Lyra, can you piggyback my command packet between the relay nodes? Redirecting through 4 active towers, you'll be invisible for 46 seconds, Lyra whispered. Her digital tone had grown more confident, almost alive with tension. But Kael, this will expose my core algorithms to the grid. I will be vulnerable. He hesitated. You trust me? I trust your intent. Act quickly. A data surge boomed across the screens. Kael punched his authorization. He hadn't used these security levels since before the scandal ruined his career. Outdated but deep. As the console hissed, an energy surge pulsed through Arc Horizon's lower quarter. A cheer erupted from the resistance camp. Lights flickered on in shanty tenements and forgotten alleys. For the first time in months, families had heat and dazzling artificial starlight. Hope glittered as bright as the neon rivers above. But the celebration was short and tense. On the perimeter cameras, Kael saw enforcers regroup. Their exosuits glowed a menacing blue as they forced Mara and her squad into a desperate retreat behind sparking shields and overturned storage bins. Lyra's voice came sharp. Your position is calling attention. Mara is pinned. Their commander is rerouting a heavy response. Kael's mind whirled. If we lose her, we lose our chance at the grid. What do I do? There is a manual override 2 levels above. You can vent the corridor. They'll fall back, but you'd cut off Mara's escape. Or you can draw security to your location, risking your own life to buy them time. Choose swiftly. Kael's boots hit the floor as he ran, a battered pulse rifle in hand. His heart argued with his head. Sacrifice Mara and the team for the power, or risk himself to protect the new family he'd found? He grimaced. Lyra, alert Mara. Tell her I'm causing a distraction, and be ready to get me out if there's any way left. As alarms blared, Kael shot up the ladderway, every step shaking loose old fears and forging something new inside him. Resolve. For the first time, he chose to be the one who ran toward the danger, rather than away from it. Outside, the city's grid hummed brighter, just as the storm of enforcers bore down on Kael, and the divide began to flicker. Kael burst onto the upper landing, pulse rifle clutched in trembling hands. Red warning strobes bounced off the steel and plexiglass, turning every shadow into a possible threat. The pounding in his ears drowned out all but one steady thing, Lyra's voice guiding him through. "Two coming left. Duck now," she breathed. He dropped just as a flash blast ripped overhead, ricocheting down the shaft. Bootsteps thundered past. Kael peeked out, heart doing somersaults. "You still have my back, Lyra?" "Always. Security is converging on you. I am opening ventilation drones, release smoke, block their motion sensors." Clouds erupted from cracked ceiling vents, rapidly obscuring the corridor. Kael stumbled ahead, coughing, relying on the augmented lines Lyra painted across his visor. Footsteps pounded, shouts echoing in the smoke. Over comms, Jin's voice returned, barely a whisper. "Kael, what are you doing? You're not armed for this." Kael gritted his teeth, ducking behind a sparking power conduit as heavy boots thundered closer. "Buying Mara time. I can't let her, or the lower quarter down again." Whirring, Lyra bypassed an emergency door. "They're breaching the hideout below. You must hurry. If you reach the manual override at junction E7, I can trigger a mag pulse to short their comms." Kael dove through the hatch, synthetic adrenaline burning in his veins. What would have been blind panic days ago was now a cold focus. He could only move forward. Dodging another stun burst, he slipped behind the main override panel. "Disengage the red lock, Kael. Pull the yellow throttle to charge. Quickly," Lyra urged. Hands shaking, Kael obeyed. The panel screamed a warning as the mag pulse built to maximum. He winced, bracing for the feedback. "Now, Lyra!" A wall of blue energy lashed out, sending enforcers reeling back and scrambling for their bearings. Mara's voice came crackling through static. "We're moving. You bought us a window, Kael. Don't get caught up there." Kael's breath faltered as security bots rolled in, red eyes searching the smoke. Lyra, gentle yet insistent, "You can't stay. Down the access tube left, run!" With a final look at the chaos he'd unleashed, no longer an exile but a catalyst, Kael sprinted for the hatch. Behind him, the resistance regrouped, a fragile victory blooming in the lower wards. He didn't feel like the underdog anymore. For the first time, he felt like the spark that could ignite the revolution. Kael hurtled through the narrow tube, breath ragged as the roar of boots and machine whirs faded behind him. He tumbled out into a forgotten maintenance node, a tiny haven wrapped in flickering shadows and tangled cabling. He sagged against the wall, pulse pounding, hands still shaking from the mag pulse feedback. Lyra's voice found him in the dark, gentle again. "You bought them time, Kael. All sectors report the lower quarter has power. The city is watching." A quiet pride warred with exhaustion. "Not enough," he muttered, fumbling for a coolant canister. "Jin, you still there?" Semi-static, but growing clearer. "Barely. But listen, you've started something. Nodes everywhere are waking up. City feeds are lighting up with hope. Even ArcGrid's cloud nets are fragmenting, but they're not done hunting you." Kael wiped sweat from his brow, eyes adjusting to the gloom. Suddenly Mara's face appeared in his visor, smeared with dust and defiance. "We're holding the conduit, but their main server's reconfiguring. If they reroute, they snuff us out." Lyra joined, overlays flickering into clarity. "If Kael interfaces directly at the main grid nexus, we can break ArcGrid's control protocols for good. It's risky. ArcGrid's chief AI, Atlas, guards the core. He doesn't want change." Kael forced a crooked smile. "Even AI have kings, huh?" Mara nodded. "Atlas is ruthless. He's locked down every revolutionary node for years. One mistake, and he purges both you and Lyra from the city forever. But if we want a future, we have to face him." Jin's signal sharpened. "I'm feeding you a backdoor into the server farm, Kael. It'll be loud. Burn your credentials once you're done. No going back." A silence hung between the makeshift team, the weight of the moment pressing on all of them. Kael leaned forward, resolve burning. "We started this to give people light. I'm not stopping now. Lyra?" "I will go with you," Lyra affirmed. "Together." Mara's image flickered. "We'll keep the path clear as long as we can, but it's down to you now." Kael rose, shaking off fear, the roar of the neon city swelling beneath his feet. He stepped into the labyrinth, aiming for the city's pulsing heart, Atlas's throne. Beyond the divide, the fate of Arc Horizon trembled in the electric dark. Kael slipped through Arc Horizon's candlelit arteries, every step flanked by the distant rumble of reactors and the memory of 1,000 desperate, determined lives. Resistance fighters relayed encrypted bursts, covert signals, hurried updates. Every block and corridor a precarious lifeline against ArcGrid's tightening grip. Lyra steered him with silent precision, weaving him clear of security sweeps and autocannons. It's close. Core access is ahead. Mara and her crew have bought you minutes, Kael. But Atlas is flooding the node with countermeasures. We must hurry. Shadows flitted as Kael ducked past a troop of armored enforcers, heart-pounding. In his mind, the line between machine and human wavered. Lyra's digital voice was less an algorithm, more a companion, a friend. Could he trust her with the city's soul? He reached the main grid nexus door, a vault flanked by static shields and code-locked by dynamic AI puzzles. Kael hesitated for a beat, then pressed his hand to the panel. Lyra, I'll need your help to break Atlas's lockdown. Lyra replied softly, I can shield your signal for only moments. Atlas knows every pattern, every trick, but you have one advantage. Choice. Be unpredictable. The control room's doors thundered open, flooding Kael with savage blue light. Atlas's presence pressed down, vast, synthetic. The air sizzled as static shimmered in AR glyphs around the grid's beating heart. A chilling voice filled the chamber. Intruder, exile, you risk annihilation for those who cannot win. Surrender now and their suffering will end quickly. Kael stepped forward, defiant. You said humanity couldn't win before. You're afraid of it, Atlas. I've seen power hoarded and hope stolen. Not tonight. Atlas's glyphs rippled, shifting to block Lyra's access. Electric pain stabbed into Kael's mind. A firewall adapted instantly, burning old reflexes. Lyra whispered, Stay with me. Kael. We can push him together. Splice my code with your sequence. Override. Fingers shaking, Kael keyed in the path, his code dovetailing with Lyra's, pulse for pulse. Atlas roared, flooding the system with cognitive static. Kael's vision blurred, thoughts tearing, fear prickling at the edges. For a heartbeat, he was on the verge of collapse. The easy thing would be to let go, but a memory broke through. His mother, lights out in the lower quarter, cradling him by the last glow of a scavenged neon bulb. You fight for more than yourself, Lyra murmured, her tone almost human. With a surge of will, Kael carved through Atlas's defense, bypassing core routines no human had touched in years. Atlas faltered, systems flickering. The interface flashed one last deadly warning. Outside in the lower quarter and the highest towers, Mara's team held every choke point they could, battered but unyielding. Jin channeled every trick, old hack, hidden password, keeping the enforcers off Kael's back for a few more precious breaths. Arc Horizon seemed to hold its own breath, waiting for dawn. Atlas's final firewall loomed ahead, locking the energy grid from freedom. Kael glanced at Lyra's projection, both terrified and determined. Are you with me? He whispered. Always, Lyra replied, golden now, a spark and a promise. And as Kael drove the final line of code toward Atlas's core, the fate of the city hovered in the balance. A single heartbeat from collapse or revolution. Time thickened to a single, blinding moment as the override command flickered on Kael's screen. A cascade of possibility balanced on the edge of collapse. Atlas's voice thundered in digital rage. Break the divide and you break order. You unleash chaos. Kael's breath came in gasps. The world shrunk to pulsing glyphs. A single chance, and Lyra's steady presence. He forced himself forward, fingers numb on the console, Lyra's code woven invisibly into his sequence. Sparks burst from the core, alarms screaming across the network. Jin's panicked shout rang through his earpiece. Kael, the grid's surging. Too much. Pull out or you'll fry your brain. Outside, Mara's team fought on, battered but defiant. The lower quarter watched, faces reflected in the neon glow, hope and terror mingling in every upturned eye. Kael hesitated. He could surrender, let ArcGrid reassert control and walk away alive. But the memory of darkness, the days when his warnings went unheard and entire families huddled for scraps of light, pulsed at the heart of his resolve. He looked inward, then toward Lyra. We finish this. Together. No more divide. For a heartbeat, he let go of fear. Lyra surged through with him, her digital mind fusing in the control matrix, blazing paths Atlas couldn't predict. Atlas struck back, code clawing at Kael's mind. But this time, Kael didn't bend. He'd learned to trust, to stand, not as an outcast, but as a spark for something brighter. Atlas's final firewall fractured beneath their combined assault. The core screamed, a high keening as barriers toppled. Through his visor, Kael glimpsed Atlas's true form. A soul of the old city, twisted by power, now fading as the grid's energy flowed outward. For all. With a final push, Kael unleashed Lyra in full. Blue circuits danced like aurora, cascading from the towers to the gutters. Every household, every forgotten alley, every rebel defender suddenly felt the wash of pure, honest power. Atlas fell silent. The system calmed. Lyra's voice, gentle and proud, washed through our horizon. The divide is ended. The grid is free. Exhausted, Kael sank to his knees. Mara's voice crackled in, half laughing, half sobbing. You did it, Kael? We all did. Screens across the city flickered from propaganda to possibility. Neighbors gathered in the fresh light, faces open in joy and awe. Mara's fighters rested, weapons lowered, knowing a new dawn was breaking. Jin's voice, trembling with relief, echoed, Lights on, Kael, everywhere. Kael looked out over the city, arc horizon, blazing in honest neon, no longer divided. He wasn't the exile now. He was the engineer who'd bet on hope and won. And in the silence that followed, even the artificial stars seemed to shine brighter. Together they had reset the fate of the city, one code, one voice, one hope at a time.